Well, good morning again, viewers. We have this 2013 F-150 and we're changing the lead frame on it. So I've taken the oil pan off and the connector off the back of the transmission. This guy here, this pass-through, going to replace this. 10 of the 11 bolts out of the valve body. And I'm just letting it drain slightly. There's one bolt left right here holding it up. And then I'm going to let it drain while I go into town to get the parts. The dealership has the parts all in stock, imagine that. I'm going to link to a video for doing this job. I found it last night, Ford Tech Maki Loco. I hope I didn't butcher his name. It's got an excellent video on doing this lead frame on 2010 to 18, I think. 6R80, I think this transmission is. But there are 11 bolts holding the valve body in. You can tell them they have a larger head. They have a T30 head. So all of the T30 bolts, there's 3 short ones and 8 long ones. So let's get this valve body off. So when you're dropping the valve body down, be conscious of that thermal bypass valve. It's going to fall out of the case. It goes up in that hole there, right there. And it's going to have to be reinstalled with assembly lube to hold it in there. Just be careful not to drop it in the drain bucket or damage it. The spring goes up, I believe, but I'm going to double check. And then there's this gasket here that we need to replace as well. This gasket needs to be replaced. So in my case, the connector tubes or connector sleeves stuck to the valve body. They're like little pieces of hose. One slightly longer than the other. The long one goes towards the driver's side of the vehicle. I believe it's blue. So I pulled them off and stuck them up inside there. You can see the blue one and the green one. Nothing in the third hole on this one. And then there's a rubber grommet here. There's another one right here, sorry. That one stayed in the case. So this is the lead frame, this plastic piece here. This is the output shaft speed sensor here, and this is the turbine speed sensor here, I believe. You have to be conscious that the manual spool valve has to be indexed with the position sensor. That's the position sensor right there. So these are T27 bolts that go down from the top. I believe there's 6. So let's take this off. So there are actually 7 bolts. 1, 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, and 1 here. And then the valve body separates from the lead frame. I think there's only 7. It's attached to the solenoids here, 2, 4, 6, 7 solenoids. I'm pushing in on the bolts. And once you get it released, you flip it over. There's dowel pins on it. There we go. That's the lead frame. So there's the one dowel here, one dowel here. So we set that off to the side because that's getting replaced. I'm gonna I wonder if this has got the updated know, it doesn't have the foam seal on the updated one will have a foam seal in here, as apparently metal filings would tend to get in between the pins and short the terminals together on the solenoids here. These are the shift solenoids and torque converter clutch solenoid. And I don't know which is which, but we're not touching those. So like I said, I'm going to let this thing drain while I go into town to pick up the parts. So apparently I had a problem with my microphone went dead, and I didn't realize it, so I originally recorded the audio with the mic, but it didn't come through, so I'm voiceovering it. There are actually 6 bolts, and they're torqued to 61 inch-pounds. And that's what I'm using, an inch-pound torque wrench here. So the valve body torque on the bolts is 71 inch-pounds, and there is a picture of the torque sequence, basically starting in the center and working out towards the outside edges. So there's the valve body reinstalled. The sleeve is pushed in the back. Make sure it goes all the way in. You might have to push it in with a small flat socket or something. Make sure this gasket is in place in here. And I had to hold the thermal valve up in the up in the case with petroleum jelly. Double check that the manual valve is indexed with the shift linkage here, because that'll be a bad day if you put it all together and it doesn't start because it's not in park. So we're ready to put the filter on and put the pan back on, and the pan gasket is reusable. Well, I'm not a happy camper. The pan gasket's leaking. I didn't see any breaks in it, and it's supposed to be reusable, but obviously we're going to have to change it now. Well, there it is back together. It took 9.5 liters. So that'd be about 10 quarts, 10.5 quarts. The transmission fluid will burn off here. So we're going to try and diagnose this rough running on the startup, but I'm going to look at the output shaft speed sensor signal now on the graphing multimeter. Well, it's interesting that at the low voltage rest, it sits at 0.66 volts. So I'm going to put it in drive and let the wheels spin. So it averages about 2.5 volts. It's a 50% duty cycle. I'm stepping on the brake. So it's a nice square wave now. And the voltage at the 0 line is a lot more stable at 0.66. I would actually expect that to be closer to 0, but I haven't checked another one, so I don't know. So we're going to clear the codes out of the computer now. So I'm looking at engine data, trying to figure out why this thing stumbles on a cold start, and I see inferred flex fuel percentage 84%, which is hard to believe considering we don't have E85 here. So how would it have learned that? I was thinking flex fuel learned, yes. Fuel level 50%. Wonder if we can reset the flex fuel. I thought that was a GM problem only. Let's see if there's bidirectional capable functional tests, special functions, relearn vehicle data, gas low pressure fuel test, relative compression, programmable module installation. Let's try resetting keep alive memory. See if that did it. Clearing codes doesn't do it because I've already cleared the codes. I wonder what relearn vehicle data does, but we'll go back and look in functional tests and see if output controls maybe. Purge, injector, variable cam timing, spark advance. Well, let's try looking at fuel adaptive alcohol content. It's under engine management. Unless this doesn't support flex fuel. Fuel inferred flex fuel percentage 84%. Let's see when we look at the VIN if it specifies that it's flex fuel or not. The underhood emission label might say it. So it does say gasoline, ethanol. So I wonder how we relearn the ethanol content. So I'm going to try this relearn vehicle data. Carry out this previously configured piece, read new configuration. DTC P16A can be cleared. No, this is not what we want to do. Please verify the correct vehicle configuration data is programmed into the BCM, tire size, axle ratio. This is not what we want to do. Okay, I'm going to do some reading. So it's been shut off for about half an hour. I'm going to see if it misfires on a warm restart. It started normally that time. Cylinder 6 misfire 1, cylinder 7 misfire 1. Well, I'm going to look into that alcohol content. So I did a keyword search on Identifix for ethanol, and I come across this case here. It says the engine is hard to start mainly during cold morning conditions and appears to run rich during hard starting. Flex fuel inferred value is showing 78%, mine's 84%. The flex fuel inferred value is showing a reading of 78% on the scan tool, but it does not change when performing a keep alive memory reset of the powertrain. PCM is not setting any codes on the vehicle. The customer states the truck has not been running on anything except regular gasoline. Check fuel pressure output of the pump in the shop and when the vehicle is driven under steady load. Fuel pressure should maintain a reading of 51 to 60 psi under all operating conditions. If fuel pressure drops to 50 or less at any point, it will suggest failure of the fuel pump. Ford controls the fuel pump operation at two different speeds. Under steady throttle, mild to moderate load conditions, the pump command is less than at high load conditions. A typical failure of the fuel pump in this model is a drop in pressure output during mild moderate load conditions with good pressure ratings under high load conditions. Because of the utilization of wideband heated oxygen sensors, a drop in fuel system pressure under normal operating conditions could cause the PCM to adjust the flex fuel inferred value high quicker than the fuel trim values will change to show a reflection of lean condition during operating when driving. When clearing the initiates a relearn of the air-fuel ratio after it enters closed loop. This should cause a parameter identifier PID listed in to change from yes to no. Right now it says no. I was looking at, what the hell? Let me get this vehicle loaded again. So the flex fuel learned value was yes before clearing the keep alive memory, and now it says no. And the inferred flex fuel is 48. So it may have low fuel pressure, and that's tricking the thing in thinking it's running on. See, it's calculated it down to 47 now. So reading the criteria for relearning, doing a keep alive memory reset seems to do that. So it's running at 30% duty cycle. Unfortunately, this is a returnless system without a pressure sensor on it, so we got to put a fuel pressure gauge on it to read the actual fuel pressure. I'm going to let it run for a while and see what it does with this learned value over here. So I'm running at a fast idle, and when it says no here, it's relearning, and you can see it's coming down now. 38. It started out at 49 when I started recording this. 37. So it seems that it learns from the air-fuel ratio sensors. But if the fuel pressure is low from the fuel pump, it could fool it, because ethanol would run lean and it mislearns it. Let's see how low it'll go after running at a fast idle when it gets to yes here. Well, it's gone down to 35%. I'm going to take it for a road test. I'm going to road test the transmission anyways. Then I think I'm going to leave it for a cold start tomorrow morning and see how it starts. Well, it went down as low as 33, but on the road test it came back up to 67. And I know it hasn't got ethanol in it because they can't buy it here in Northern Ontario. So I suspect it has a weak fuel pump, and that's causing it to run predominantly lean, and it's mislearning the ethanol content. It's running fine, and the transmission works perfect now, but this is an underlying problem, and I think because it thinks it's got 85% ethanol, it injects more fuel on a cold start and it runs rich. It stumbles, it blows blue smoke like it's overfueling. I'm going to see if I can get a pressure gauge on it. Well, there's the pressure gauge teed in, and we're sitting at about 34 psi. So because it's got a low fuel pressure, it inherently runs lean, and then it therefore assumes it's running alcohol and increases the ethanol blend. So this thing probably needs a fuel pump. Well, it's returnless, so it has to need a fuel pump because it's mechanically regulated at the fuel pump. So that's another job for another day.